if athletes don't need to rush in and see us, then we're good. And I'm finding now as a veteran now, I've got half an hour slots. I used to want to fill that half an hour and even do a couple minutes extra. And I realize if I can do my job in 15, 20 minutes and let you go and be like, you're good, that's actually me doing a better job.
You're the most decorated racquetball player in U.S. history. World's strongest man. From childhood passion to professional athlete. 8-time Ironman champion. So what was it like making your debut in the NHL? What is your biggest piece of advice for the next generation of athletes? From underdogs to national champions. This is the Athletes Podcast, where high-performance individuals share their triumphs, defeats, and life lessons to educate, entertain, and inspire the next generation of athletes. Here we go.
But for 23 years, like I am not out there. Never had a website.
So that's even more of a testament to your work. I hate to break it to you.
Why? No.
Because it means that people are paying attention to what you do without it even being like easily accessible.
No, but I think there's a certain clientele that like their things to be exclusive. And because I'm not out there, they like it that they can only find me through somebody else. So they feel like they're getting a gem.
Right.
A lot with the athletes too. Like the ones I've realized that I've been working with for 20 years, they don't want somebody that's on social media that's putting where they are all the time. They like that they can never find me. And when I first started, I'd have them sign a disclaimer too, that they would not say anybody, I'm their therapist. I don't want to be put anywhere as your therapist. I won't mention that I'm your therapist, whatever I hear in your house or see, I'll never talk about. Because you see a lot of things, you hear a lot of things, but I want you to also not talk about me.
Wow. Do you do that with every one of your clients?
No, just my athletes at first. Because I realized as a woman, I started at 25 and 2 months in, I was with an NBA athlete. And I realized for me at that time, it was going to be career suicide if I was seen with him. Because they'd be like, oh, she's young, she's kind of cute. Oh, I'm sure she's a good therapist. So I wanted to make my name just on him referring from the work I did. I wouldn't go out in public with him. He's like, oh, we're all going here for dinner. I wouldn't be seen with him till he got traded. And then we could go to dinner when he came to Toronto.
Wow.
And he even jokes about it now. It's been 23 years. He's like my big brother. So every time I buy a place, he wants to come see it. And he'll be like, can we be seen in public now? I was like, yeah, it's been 20 years. I think we're good. No one's going to assume it's because we were sleeping together.
What a shame.
Why?
That
I felt that I had to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, but I don't want to be out there like that. Like, I don't want to be people see me with somebody and be like, ooh, I'll have her as my therapist. If you don't think I'm good and heard about it from somebody else, I don't want you to pacify me or just because you think I'm cool. Because I'm not.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I just think the fact that you, like, two, young people can't be out seen.
Yeah, well, he was actually a veteran, so he was 11 years older.
Okay, that makes a difference.
So it was a big difference.
Yeah.
And so I just thought, no. And I mean, we didn't start off on the best foot. We weren't friends. Like, it's amazing we're friends now. But we didn't start off very friendly. He was kind of feisty and rude, and I don't take the attitude lightly, so I just pushed back. And then he now says he respected me because of it, because people just take whatever they get from them. And I was like, no, I got other people I can treat. We don't have to do this.
Yeah.
So
how does a 25-year-old go from 2 months on the job to training an NBA athlete and an NBA vet?
Yeah. Well, it's you know what? It started off right place, the right time.
Okay.
I did a kin degree at U of T. And one of my U of T professors was a sports psych. And the minute I went into massage therapy, she was working with a national team cyclist. And the cyclist couldn't afford at the time a real massage therapist. So she said, I know somebody that's going to be as good as anybody you've done. I had been in school. It was after my first year. I'd learned effleurage, petrissage, some compression. But Lorianne came to me. She would ride her bike. She ended up winning a gold medal in 2004. But I was treating her in 2019 when she couldn't afford a therapist, and she would come. It would be 2 hours. I'd be sweating. She'd be sweating. I'm muscle stripping her legs, but I didn't know what I was doing. So my approach was, what's worked for you in the past? And she would show me and tell me, and I would just do it. And then my U of T sports med professor ended up being the Raptor sports doctor. And so I had met one of the NBA athletes a month out of school, and he had said, this is how it didn't start off well. He had said, you can come to my condo. And I said, no, I was at the time working in the Royal Hotel at the spa, and I said, you can come there, and if we get along, we can see if this will work. So he called and the day of or the day before, and he was like, can I get an appointment? I was like, no, I'm working.
Classic guy.
And so he's like, I said, I'm working at the Royal Hotel. You can come. You used to live there. You can come in. And so he came in, but he left and didn't say a word to me. 90 minutes. And so I went to the front desk. They're like, he left you a tip, but he didn't really say anything. But before he left the room, he did say to me, you know what, if I don't like this massage, you'll never see me again. And I said, if I don't ever want to treat you, you'll never see me again. And then he left. So didn't hear from him for about a couple of weeks. And then he called and he's like, can I get a massage tomorrow? I said, no, you know I work. You have your schedule from like months ago. Pick a day and let me know. So he hung up the phone, didn't even say goodbye. He barely says goodbye now. Anyway, that's just him. But so he called a couple weeks later and he's very gruff and he's like, so can I get a treatment 2 weeks from Tuesday? I was like, yeah, I think I can work that out. So went to his condo and did the intake, and he's not really talking to me. He's obviously not happy. So for about the first 3 treatments, we don't talk during it. And so after the first one, I'm like, hello, I'm looking for him. I'm like, are you there? I can't find him. He's in the sprawling condo, but he's obviously ignoring me. So I find where my shoes are. I put it on. I see he's left cash on the credenza. So I take it and I leave. The next 2 or 3 treatments are the same thing. He'll call me, go through the case history. We don't really talk. We're obviously not friends, but he pays in American. At that point, it's 70 cents to the dollar.
Yeah.
So I'm like, this is just work.
Yeah.
It's downtown. I'm good. So we don't talk. And then one day we started talking. I was going through the case history, and then he was asking about something and his father. There was something up, and we just started talking. And then we actually became friends from there. But it started off not well.
Talk about 0 to 100 as far as work experience, going from like working with general population to then treating arguably the highest performing athlete, highest level out there. Steep learning curve?
You know what? No, because I didn't know any better. Okay. So with the cyclist, I was just, tell me what works for you. She did. She was like, this is great. You've added some new stuff of your own. So I went for that approach. So every time I'd see somebody, athlete or not, my approach is, what worked for you in the past? And we'll start with that, and then I'll add my own twist to it. So I didn't even know what I didn't know. And I was lucky enough in school, I've been told by my mentor, do a variety of populations. So I did work with HIV patients. And that taught me a lot because they were more knowledgeable about their body than me. I could do much more harm with them than anybody. So if I could manage some HIV patients and be able to speak to them about anything, death, about medications, then the athletes were not that hard because I was not going to kill you potentially, not going to infect you with anything. I wasn't potentially, going to give you something that I have on my skin that you could be very harmful. So it wasn't a steep learning curve because I didn't know what I didn't know. And I just took the whole approach. Even now when I see a professional athlete, they've obviously at this level, at the Olympic level or high performance, they've had treatment before and gotten there because of that treatment. So my approach is what's worked for you in the past. I'm not trying to recreate the wheel. I'm not, some brain, so I don't have this technique that's new. We all do the same thing. It's our approach. And so whatever's worked for you, let's start there. And then we can enhance it or I can make it my own. But to me, you can't go wrong when you have that approach.
How often should athletes, Gen Pop, be getting this kind of treatment? Like RMT? Like, because I'll go and it's like, if you have benefits, sure, let's do it. But then others, it's like, hey, I should be going here weekly. What do you suggest?
Again, it's very individual. Like I've had surgeons that will do it once a week before the day they operate. So it's a different kind of treatment. And then if they're doing physical activity, it's something else. As a therapist, we can always alter the kind of therapy we do. If you're not doing high performance stuff and it's for relaxation, we can do that. And then the next 2 weeks or the next week, now you've been a weekend warrior and you've run a marathon. Well, that's a different treatment. So you can actually treat somebody. Often, the treatment's just going to differ in duration or it's going to differ in intensity. But for athletes, they have a schedule. The other thing I don't like to do is I don't like to make it so that the athlete's like every Wednesday at 6 o'clock I'm getting a massage because the body gets lazy. And it'll only heal itself to a certain extent. So I will, even though I see you regularly, every once in a while we'll skip a week. And then if it gets too intense, we'll fall back. Or then we'll go 2 weeks extra. and then fall back, because you need to keep the body being able to heal itself. And that's where I look better as a therapist, when the body can heal itself, because you don't know the difference between, oh, that extra 2 weeks is what did it. If I do a very intense treatment, I know I'm going to need you to have 2.5 weeks. I just look better, even though I don't see you as often. So then you think, okay, whatever Danielle says, that was actually pretty good. And sometimes I get the timing wrong.
Yeah.
Sometimes they need more time, or they're like, oh, I wish I'd gotten that. It was a little too long when things built up, but it's hit and miss. I don't like to do the like clockwork.
Right. How, that's got to be difficult though with an athlete who's, they're so accustomed to having that schedule. To your point, what your schedule is going to be months out when you're talking to your guy. Like, that's like, I think the fact that you've got that confidence, you got that swagger, like, hey, this is what I'm going to tell you to do. You can listen or you don't have to.
There have been times where I've had to tell an athlete, like, you don't need to see me today. And that is the best thing ever. If you're at your best and you can go to practice and you don't need to see a therapist after, you're good.
Yeah.
I'm not there to just kill time. So I didn't start off this way, but I was the therapist that would do anything. Like if you just need to relax, or if you just need your hands done, even though you don't run with them, whatever it was, I was going to do it, because I wanted you to feel good all the time. But the whole healing of the body, and even mentally, you can't be dependent. And therapists want athletes to be dependent on them. And that's where they go wrong. I want you to be like, ooh, if I had Danielle, but I had traveled with an athlete to her Diamond League. I was her therapist. Now I realize why they take Kairos, but I went to certain Diamond Leagues with her, and I realized, I came back and said to her and her coach, listen, I see why they use a Kairo, because we fly somewhere, she gets up, she runs, she does her recovery, and then we have to fly somewhere else. Massage takes a lot longer to set in. By that time, we're on a plane again. So as much as it'd be great, I could have on my resume, I traveled with this girl to Diamond Leagues for years, it's not in her best interest.
Yeah.
Right? So you have to know when you don't want the athlete to be dependent on you, because they will respect you regardless. I didn't travel with her further as a one-on-one, but she'll go to a Diamond League and she will message me and be like, okay, one time she had me on video. This is what the therapist is doing. Is this okay? I was like, go get your treatment. You're grown. You let them know what works and what doesn't. You've had enough. Right? I don't think creating a dependency helps them as athletes.
It's such an interesting dynamic as a therapist, because that's your employment. So you're like, hey, I don't need more work. You're good. Right? Like, okay, not normally in the capitalist society that we live in. You're like, hey, I want more money, more work. I need to see my clients more frequently. But in your case, then that's not showcasing the work that you're doing and how beneficial
exactly.
it is.
So with the general public, you want them to be semi-regular, right? Because again, when I'm not traveling with the athletes, which doesn't pay a whole lot, that's how I make my bread and butter. But with the athletes, it's a totally different game. Like, we know as a medical staff that we're doing a good job when we don't have people just dying or needing treatments, and we're having to like move people around and that kind of thing. We look at ourselves and we're like, okay, things are good. If athletes don't need to rush in and see us, then we're good. And I'm finding now, as a veteran now, I've got half an hour slots. I used to want to fill that half an hour and even do a couple minutes extra. And I realize, if I can do my job in 15, 20 minutes and let you go and be like, you're good, that's actually me doing a better job.
It's called efficiency.
Yeah, and it mentally, it lets them know that they don't need that much work. So before, like a pre-event, if the athlete comes to me and says, I have 15 minutes, my hamstring won't loosen up, I'm going to try and get them done in 12 to 13, because I want them to then get off the table and I'll be like, listen, you're good. I don't want to be a minute or two late, whereas in your private practice, you tend to want to give them extra time. Well, that sets their psyche off. Well, were they not ready? Then their teammates are getting ready to go into the call room or getting ready to go onto the court, and they're a couple minutes late. All of a sudden, they're not 100%. So I will purposely schedule everything so they have a couple minutes to like get ready, get relaxed, and go off with the rest of the team.
So much detail that's put into it. Scott Dartnell, who you are familiar with, who introduced us, suggested we get you on. One of the things he talks about is when he's treating clients, they can either be energizing or draining. And you can sit there for that 12, 15 minutes and have a very good conversation, get a ton of work done, leave uplifted, or you can leave drained because the person you're working on can suck that energy out of you. Is that something you can relate to?
No, and I hate to say
that.
Is that
because you're an energy ball?
I don't know. Well, the other thing I've learned is that I'm I'm okay with silence now. So I will take what the athlete gives me, and I don't ever feel drained after, because even if they're not giving energy back, I don't know if it's that I don't let them suck it out of me, but I'm like, that's where you are. I'm good. Like, I actually had to tell an athlete, it was his first major games, 2017 at Worlds. And, you know, as therapists, we talk to all the athletes. They get on the table, we chat a bit. Sometimes people are silent, that's fine. But he wouldn't stop talking, but yet he wouldn't relax. So I actually had to say to him, and I'd never done this before, and I waited a couple of days because I was like, this is going to suck, but he doesn't relax. It's not benefiting him. Okay. So I had to say to him, you can't speak when you're on the table. He's like, but everybody else does. I said, I know, but they've learned to relax. So he was not happy, but he did it. And at the end, he actually ended up coming ninth, I think, at his first major games, which was amazing. And then he came to get a treatment when he was done. He's like, can I talk now? And I was like, yes, you can.
Did he learn how to relax?
Yeah, now he can do both.
Okay.
Now he's a veteran now. But so it doesn't drain me, because I just think if that's where you're at, then we're good.
Are there a favorite or a specific type of athlete that you like working with in particular?
No, like in terms of like a sport, or in terms of male versus female?
Yeah, all of the above.
No, because I think I like working with personalities. So I don't have a sport per se, because every sport, I mean, there's track, there's different events. In football, there's different positions. In baseball, different positions. So I don't know. There's not one that I'd say I like more. Cycling, I kind of just like the human body, and so whatever we can do with it.
Always been interested from as a kid, growing up. What sports were you playing?
No, I played competitive volleyball and softball, but I got into massage. I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I knew what I didn't want to do.
Okay.
So when I was in university, I worked for the government, for the cabinet office, for Bob Ray for 1 year and Mike Harris for 3. So I had to dress up to go to work 9 to 5. So I had 3 non-negotiables, and I was doing kin at U of T. So I said, even if I don't love what I'm doing, if I'm not doing these 3 things, life won't suck. And they were, it's going to sound horrible, but they were, I don't want to dress up to go to work. I don't want to have to comb my hair. Don't want to work 9 to 5 because I hated going on the subway with everybody else, and I never want to fill out a vacation request form because I wanted Caravana off every weekend, and I was new, and I had to wait for all these other people to decide they didn't want the first weekend in August off, and I thought, this can't be my life. I have to stay somewhere long enough that I could graduate to get, so whatever it was, I had to be self-employed. So when I was looking at therapies, physio was more in an office. You kind of have to wear an outfit. Chiro was the same thing. And massage, you could just go anywhere, do anything with anybody. And so I just started it out of fluke and loved it, but it just had none of my non-negotiables. And I thought, it's not going to suck.
Yeah, there you go. It could be worse. You could have to go into an office.
Yeah, or have to work 9 to 5 or work and fill out a vacation request form. So
yeah, I was on the TTC to go train last week. You feel like a sardine in there.
Well, it was just that we're all in there together. We all leave at the same time. I just like doing my own thing, and so I thought, we'll try it. I can always do something else.
It's I can say it because I'm kind of still in it, but it's like it's the rat race. You know, you're just like constantly on the hamster wheel. You keep running, rinse and repeat. You show up at 9 again the next morning. You do it all over again. How amazing has it been to be able to rid yourself of that? Like being able to dictate your schedule, travel to Diamond League events. I know that's maybe not what you want to highlight all the time, but like it's given you that flexibility, right? Yeah, absolutely. And I wouldn't be able to work with the team as much as I have if I didn't have that flexibility, because I mean, I was in Australia in 2018 for 5 weeks for Commonwealth Games, and then they asked me to go with the relay teams, and so I was there for a week or 2 extra. I mean, you wouldn't be able to take a month off to go to an Olympics plus training camp and then do 4 or 5 camps in between. Like there was a year before, was it Rio, that I think I was out of town for almost 5.5 months with the team. Whoa. Like at different camps, different events, and leading up the year before the Olympics is always the craziest. Everybody's trying to catch times. So I just wouldn't be able to do that. Yeah. I wouldn't be able to do this job, period. Hey, that's the world we live in nowadays, right?
Yeah, you get to choose, right?
Yeah,
I mean, I could do less when they offer me events. Easy. I could be like, no, I can't. And they just move on to the next person. But I do have that flexibility. So when I'm here, I'm grinding. I work 7 days a week. But when I'm gone, I'm gone.
Wow. You know what we'd also love to hear from you guys, specifically the males watching this Athletes Podcast episode. What are you guys doing for your face? You guys are probably brushing your teeth every day, but are you washing your face? Are you applying the good every night to make sure that you're hydrated, moisturized, making sure that your skin looks young, youthful, glowing? I personally use Caldera Lab. I start off my day by washing my face with the clean slate. You can tell it's still wet. That's because I used it this morning. Then I follow it up. I throw on the nice little icon here in the middle underneath the eyes, keeps those black dark spots away. And then to finish it off, we use the beard product to make sure that the beard's looking nice and full. Check out calderalab.com. Use the code AP20 for 20% off yours. It's the best deal that they offer anywhere out there. And I can't recommend the products enough. I use Caldera Lab every single day. As you can tell, my skin's looking all right, and I'm very happy with it, to say the least. I want to know, though, if you're using it, let us know down below. Guys, promise you're going to love it. How does it feel to be able to say you're, working for Team Canada, you're representing your nation?
You know what? It feels great to say it, but I have to say the best feeling is when you have the uniform on, and for some crazy reason, for me, it's walking through the airport with your Canada gear.
Yeah.
It's because it's so international, but yet it's on my back, like where I'm from. It's not so much saying it, but it's just, I will say, having the gear on, like even in an Olympic village, where it's countries all over the world, and I have Canada on my back, and it's my favorite color, red. That helps. But yeah, that is actually probably the best feeling. I don't tell people that much. Like, I don't put on social media because I don't know. I feel like, I don't want to say I didn't earn it. I was in the right place at the right time, and I took advantage of what was given to me. But it's not like I'm doing something that so many other therapists can't do. I think if you gave 90% of therapists the opportunity I was given, they probably roll with it too. So I don't think I stand out in that way. But I do love having the Canada gear at the airport. I don't know if there's something about that.
I feel like that you're being a little humble. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that. But I think part of you're like, no. Here's why I'm comfortable saying that, because you've been doing it for 2+ decades.
Yeah.
There's clearly people appreciating your efforts and what you're doing. And I think more so, you're able to do it in a way that is energizing. You've got this kind of excitement around you. People at the conference couldn't stop talking about you. It's like infectious, right? And I think people understand and appreciate passion and excitement, and they can tell when someone's genuinely interested about a subject or whatever the case may be. And in your case, it's RMT, and it's helping humans, athletes. We're all athletes, humans, high performers at the end of the day. That's what we're trying to do with the Athletes podcast, right?
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I think that's why. That's what I'm going to say.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, I think I love what I do. And so people always say, how much longer are you going to be with the team? And the minute I wake up and I'm not looking forward to going to the hub every Wednesday, or I get asked to go to a camp and I'm kind of like, I don't want to, then I just make that call and say, guys, I'm done. So I'm not going to do it just because. And I think, should be adding new blood in all the time that have that energy. So once I wake up and I'm like, iffy about it, I'll just move on to something else. I don't know what that is.
I was going to say, do you know what that would be?
No, but I didn't know I was going to do track.
Right.
Like, I got a phone call from someone I didn't know. And so I thought it was a track club with a bunch of kids running around trying to run, jump, throw. And it wasn't. It ended up being, 6 months later, I'm at a camp, pre-Olympic camp. But yeah, I just think, you know what? There's so much out there. I don't know what I'm going to do next. I didn't know I was going to do Team Canada. So who knows what else is out there that I don't even know exists.
Yeah, the door hasn't opened yet.
Yeah.
Have you noticed any differences or commonalities between, like, your NFL, your NBA athletes that you were working with previously and now track and field athletes? Are there, or differences for that matter, specific traits you see in common?
I think with every sport I've worked with, there's always athletes that are very diligent, know what's going on with their body, and are almost over analytical about everything they eat.
Type A.
Yes, type A. And then there's those ones that just rely on people just to do everything for them. And will tell them what medications to take. Like, I had an athlete had a pill box, didn't know what he was taking, and he was just told, take this, take this, take this, and he would just take them. And I said, I need to know what you're taking. He's like, I don't know.
Whoa.
But to him, it was just, that was
doing your job.
I have a job to do. I get paid to do a job. These people get paid to help me. That's all. I don't want to bother myself with the things in between. And then you get those that, get told to do an exercise and they want papers on why this exercise is going to work. So I've seen extremes in all sports. Anything with a team that there's money in it, and I would say there's not much money in track, but it is a team. I don't want to, some people are doing well. 99% of athletes will not make a dime. And so I think as medical, just staff working with them, it's our job to also bring in energy, bring in appreciation for what they do, because they really don't get much. Like, we get a paycheck. We get, as an RMT, every time I leave someone's house, they're so happy to see me. They're happy when I leave. Athletes don't get that. Track athletes don't get it. If they don't finish in the top or hit their goal or hit their time, guess what? They come off the track and we've moved on to the next person. There's nobody there to help them and be like, that sucks. Are you okay? Do you want, we do, but in globally, there's none of that.
We try and bring that up on the show on a weekly basis, and it's not all sunshine and rainbows in pro sport.
It's not.
It's, to your point, 96% of people in track and field.
That's just my own stat I made up.
I could probably quote you on it, and it would be pretty damn close. That's the scary part, right?
It's bad. Like, a lot of them will just go, and the money they make doesn't even pay for their airline ticket to get there. But they need to go to get these times to get a little sponsorship that's probably only going to be close.
Right? Or heaven forbid, you have to pay for additional training or supplementation or food, right? Like, all of these things add up. You maybe have some can play funding.
Yeah.
It's something I'm trying to figure out how we can improve.
Okay. Well, I'd love to try and help you improve that.
It's having conversations like this, honestly, though, right? Like, we've had Aaron Brown on Diamond League.
Oh, and he's very big on, and Aaron's very smart and has done well and has figured out how to make that work for him. But he is a big advocate for track sucking for most athletes.
And it's not just track, right? Like, we're talking with Sarah Mitt who's a shot putter, right?
Yeah, she's out of the East Hub.
And so we've got, we see these athletes on a weekly basis and the lack of attention that they're getting.
Especially throwers. Like, we've had Cameron Gold,
I know.
Bam.
They're
Sarah,
both from BC, right?
Bam.
Right? And
Ethan.
I was trying to get it. We're BC, I was trying to make it happen. Maybe we can make that connection afterwards.
And Cameron's a sweetheart.
Yeah.
She's great. She's energy. Oh my gosh, on this podcast, she'd be like, she'd actually be great. But, and Sarah, and even Jillian Weir came 5th at Worlds in 2022 in Eugene. And the sponsorship for the women is abysmal, throwers especially.
Well, that's what we were talking about earlier. Like I said, Cook Stark Management, LDC Talent, we're trying to provide females the same opportunities that us guys have been blessed with for decades. When you be able to equal that, because it's crazy, right? And like, I think it was the last episode with Emma Malte, we were talking about how 2018 was 4% of media coverage was for females sport. It's up to 15% now. Again, 4 or 5 years, 10% growth. It's good, but it's nowhere near where it needs to be.
And how much is that media based on their actual event or what they look like?
You said it, not me. It's
right?
true, right?
And
it sucks.
And it sucks because there's going to be some that get a lot of attention based on what they look like. And you know what? You got to use what you got. I actually think you got to use what you got to use. But then there's those that are like winning medals and doing things that, are in their sport legit and actually winning. And it happens in every sport. And Kournikova in tennis didn't win anything. It ended up being a household name. So unfortunately, it's the norm, but I applaud you for actually recognizing as a male.
I'm trying.
And trying to do something about it.
Yeah.
Just the acknowledgement is huge.
Yeah, it's we're pushing a rock uphill for sure. And it's not something that we're doing clearly for the money because
there's none in there.
Trying to find
but I think without a man pushing it, it doesn't go anywhere.
And that's what attracted me to it. Lander Cook, who's my co-founder for CSM, he did it with LDC Talent 3 years ago.
Yeah.
And so we have 20 plus female hockey players under our portfolio.
That's amazing.
And Layla Edwards, who's actually the first female black hockey player to represent Team USA Senior National Hockey. So again, shout out to her. Shout out to Gatorade for the stuff that they sent her. All the other brands, but no free ads. I can't but all that to be said, it's really tough. And even when you have someone who has a platform like this that can access a ton of brands, ton of athletes, it's still pushing a rock up a steep hill. And I appreciate your energy and your support for it, put it that way.
Yeah, no, it's, and I see it and you feel horrible. And there's even some men, right? It just depends on the sport. But it is for women, I think just what they're doing, they're doing exactly what the men are doing, right? Hockey, track, they're doing the same events, but yet it's just not there. So hopefully, like I said, there needs to be a man spearing it. And so kudos.
It's coming. It's coming. And there's like even the data behind it, like the engagement around female athletes and their social media and the attraction and the attention that gets compared to males is 2x minimum, right?
Yeah.
So just that on its own, it's just awareness. People need to be educated about it. They need to figure out, they need to learn, oh, if I spend $500 with Dave, it's going to get me X. If I spend $500 with Danielle, it's going to be X plus Y plus Z and all your extra energy, right? And they're like, holy, what a bargain that was.
But like, I mean, sadly, because you guys are at the forefront, you'll probably never get the credit, but it's you guys doing the behind the scenes work. And then somebody will come along and tip it over the scales. And you know what I mean? They'll take all but really without you guys grinding it out when no one's watching. That's what really gets to the top of the hill. And then, like I said, someone's going to come and push the rock over and it'll be like, hey, congratulations. But it's you guys in the back that really get this thing moving.
Trying. It's been 4 years. We've been doing this pod. This will be like 206 this episode.
206.
I know. We tried to get you on for like 190s before while we were here a couple of months ago, but didn't make it happen.
I'm okay with that.
Hey, I'm just glad we got to chat with you today, right? It was difficult. You've got a very busy schedule, 7 days a week, like you just said you're working.
Okay, let's not talk about 7 days a week, you two. Listen, I know the behind the scenes with you too.
We do have a lot going on, but I mean, I feel like everyone that's trying to achieve success and trying to do lots of incredible things is always going to pursue lots. Have you always had that drive since a young age to do something?
Yeah, I always wanted to just do what I wanted to do. And my mother always said, just find out what you love. It doesn't have to be find out what you love, and then you'll work hard at it. You'll be the best at it because you'll want to work at it. So figure out what you want to do and just do that. Start there, and then everything else will kind of fall into place. So she made me actually go to U of T. I wanted to become a cop.
Oh.
And so she made me get a degree and then said, you can do whatever you want after that. And so I went to massage therapy after. She's like, Chaz, you going to work in a spa your whole life? I was like, I don't know, but this is what you said I could do what I want to do. And so leave me alone, give me 5 years and we'll talk. So yeah, she was happy to see that I wasn't working in a spa my whole life. She's like, you got your degree. I said, you made me get my degree. Now it's my turn.
Is it a relatively balanced industry, like male to female dominated RMTs? Are you?
No, it's very female dominated.
Okay.
It's very female dominating. But I find in the sports realm, to be honest, if you'd asked me 5 years ago, I would have said, oh no, most massage therapists are males. No, when I go to games, I look around and I do see a lot of female massage therapists. The other thing is in 2016, the first Olympics I went to, Canada Athletics, AC, was taking an all-male medical. I was supposed to work with the para side, and the massage therapist had something come up and asked if I would switch with him. So he did para, I did able-bodied. I was the only female out of 2 massage therapists, 2 chiros, 2 physios. They would have had an all-male therapy team in 2016. So the athletes would say to me, always want me at these games because they'd be like, Danielle, we want a female. Like they'd have issues where I've gotten calls at 4:00 in the morning, menstrual cramps. They're on the floor at World Relays, and none of the male medicals answered that call that came through. And I get it, but had there not been a female on staff, they probably wouldn't have said anything. So I'm happy to say that in Tokyo, my second Olympics, we had 3 females.
Wow.
2 physios. One was a personal, but she was just as involved. Myself, and then 3 were males.
Good for you.
Yeah, and I would have been the only minority also in Rio, and I wasn't in Tokyo. So I said to the athletes, you have to be an advocate. If you want females, you have to advocate because they'll give you whatever they want to give you, and if you say nothing, then fool on you. So, and then they started to speak up. We'd like to have a female. So now actually the lead is very conscientious about having a certain amount of females as males.
As they should be.
That was 4 years. That's not bad.
Yeah.
But it was, and didn't feel spited when I think about in 2016 I was going to be the only. It wasn't anything done on purpose. It was just the way things were done, and nobody spoke up.
Yeah, you'd think there would be a little bit more of like a, hey, this looks weird, hey?
Yeah, especially since more than half of our track team is minority and women. And actually, I looked it up. There was actually more females on the team than males.
Yeah.
But nobody said anything. And I said to the athletes, if you don't say anything and this is who is servicing you, then you're telling them you're okay with this.
Yeah.
And so why would they change it?
Yeah, and just like from a, standardization point of view, you think
so now we look at it and it's kind of like, it didn't feel that bad though when I didn't realize it till after.
Yeah.
Until some of the athletes started to talk to me about it. I honestly went there and I didn't realize I was the only female because I just tend to hang around a lot of males anyway. And it's just, we each do our own thing. So it's not a big deal. But I see that one single female therapist might have a hard time if the males go do their own thing and, you want somebody to hang with. I'm good to chill by myself. I'm good to chill with the guys and be like, deuces, I'm out. Like, you guys go do your thing. I want time alone. But it would be hard for a certain female because then you feel like you're on your own.
Totally. I worked as a doping control chaperone for during my time in school. So I know. Yeah. That's the reaction.
You've done everything in sport.
Yeah, I know. I don't reference it too much, but people who have watched from the beginning know. But you need one male and one female for that reason, right?
Yep.
And it's like, to me, why wouldn't your medical staff have the same requirements? That just seems logical, right? So anyway, kudos to you for making change happen. Well,
no, the athletes made change. Like I said, I didn't notice it a big thing at first. And then as things started, I was like, well, you guys say something. I'm not going to say anything.
Yeah.
So big changes have been made.
Yeah.
So now there's actually a conscious effort to make sure that there are X amount of females on the medical staff.
Was there anything else that stood out from those Olympics 2016, 2020 that stuck out like a sore thumb?
In terms of
in general, food, accommodations. I know you've referenced the village all the time.
I love the food in Tokyo was phenomenal because there's a lot of Japanese. They had even authentic curries from Trinidad, authentic. And the food's open 24 hours a day.
Yeah, you can gain a couple lbs. I've heard.
You sure could. Yeah. I think what stands out is just you hear about these athletes and you see the things they perform and the crazy things they do, but then to see them in person and realize I'm probably bigger than them. They seem so larger than life and they're doing such big things and jumping 8 meters and I'm like, how am I doing nothing? I am a waste of space right now. They are doing phenomenal things. And when you see their focus, my biggest thing is when an athlete is on the table pre-massage and they leave the table and they are just focused.
Dialed in.
Or you see them walking by your tent, from other countries, and you could just tell when they are on a mission with their coach and they're just going to get shit done. That's actually incredible because then you'll see them in the elevator and you're laughing and joking and people have food in their mouth or they've got, they're dressed a certain way, but yet when they get onto the track or you just see a total different. Even my athletes the NBA athlete, once we became friends, the joking and laughing, but then when you saw them when they were warming up, there'd be a little joking and laughing, but you could tell when they turn it on and they get into game mode. So that's kind of cool to see as a lay person, just how they go through that in their head and what takes them there.
Yeah, you got to be able to get into that zone, right? And it's a skill to be able to do that. Yeah. How difficult is it for you to be able to identify what makes that person tick? And I guess maybe a better way to ask it is, how much of your job is EQ versus IQ?
I would say without the EQ, it doesn't matter much it does matter, but especially and you're taking care of their psyche as well, right? You're the last person, but I think I think when I say that, people get the impression that I have the right things to say and I'm like, okay, don't forget to do this. The best thing is say nothing. Stay in your lane. I am not sports psych. So I'm there to make sure your breathing comes down. If you're talking a lot, I will slow down what you're saying. I will answer slower. I'll start to give shorter answers because I want you to stop asking that many questions. So they'll come in and have 100 things and their eyes are darting from side to side. Sometimes I've turned my table around. So usually in the tent, I will do it so that when they're on the table, they can face outside. Sometimes I like to see what's going on in the track. And I'll turn the table around. So now you're looking at the back of the tent.
Wow.
So A lot of times my thing was when athletes getting ready to go, I just let them know. I said, "You're good." Give them adapts and done. I'm not like, "Don't forget, knees up." That's not my lane. So I think the EQ is just to know where they are. Like I've had twice with the same athlete, they shit the bed, so to speak. Just didn't have a good games, and they've been like had a decade of fabulous games. And the first time it happened, you're kind of like at a loss for words. Everybody's coming in, consoling, and you kind of do that too. And you put your hand on their shoulder, and but then you realize that doesn't help them. Now they have to pretend they're good for you.
Right.
So when it happened again at a World Champs, they came into the tent, and I knew just to say nothing. They're on their phone. You could see the tears running. And you know what? I was like, no, nothing. They don't need to hear anything from me because they're going to try and make me feel like it's okay because they've disappointed us. So I realized that sometimes saying nothing. And then the next day or later on that day, they'll come up to you and you guys can have a chat. But sometimes it's really just say nothing.
So interesting. You're just like, elimination.
That's my way of doing it.
Yeah,
I'm sure other people have. I don't have anything good to say to somebody. I was not a high performance athlete, so I don't know what you want to hear before you get out there. So my thing is I'll say nothing.
Yeah, that's fair.
So I think maybe if I was an athlete, I could have been like, okay, this is what I like to hear. But at the same time, how do you know that's what they want to hear?
Yeah.
Right? I think I shouldn't be, whatever I say should not be the last thing that sticks in your head before you perform. It should be something your coach said or something your sports psych said or something mantra you've been going through. Shouldn't be anything I say.
I mean, that's good for you to recognize. And I think it's important for, RMTs, other individuals who are maybe impacting or have a factor in athlete success to understand maybe staying in your lane is just as valuable, if not more valuable, than trying to get that extra word in, right?
Yeah, and be the one that helps them. But I think that's why I've been a mainstay on the teams is because I do what I do. I do soft tissue. I'm not going to try and give you exercise, even though with my general public, I'll give them exercises. We'll go through. That's for strength and conditioning. That's for the physio. I'm going to do soft tissue. And when that's done, then I'll call the physio over. I'll tell you to go see the chiro, but I am just soft tissue. And that's it.
So sticking with soft tissue then, what should people be doing to ensure they are protecting their body, keeping it in the best shape as they age? Maybe if we're
for like the general
Gen Pop, or high performers,
Yeah.
Are there any specific things we should be doing for our?
Honestly, it's basic. Keep moving.
Okay.
I mean, if you have something that you love to do, a sport or something, but people then decide, oh, I got to go to the gym. And if I'm not going to the gym, I may as well do nothing. But no, just keep moving, whether it be walking, hiking, race walking, like just find something that you like to do. The body just needs movement, right? The body doesn't necessarily need you to be playing competitive volleyball once a week, or doesn't need you to be doing what you're doing when you're 20s. I think if you're happy where you are in life, keep moving, eat decently. I mean, some of our athletes, people think they eat just greens or they need a certain amount of calories. They eat the way a lot of us eat, except they're gifted with some very good genes and they can be very diligent when they need to be, but they're human. So I think dealing with athletes, dealing with HIV, dealing with seniors, the body just likes movement. It doesn't even need to be excessive because somehow these athletes, they're putting their bodies through something I don't think normal people should be doing. We're not gifted genetically. Just keep moving, be happy, eat decently.
It's so funny. Evan Dunphy, I don't know if you're familiar.
Yeah, oh my gosh, Evan, I love Evan.
It's a little craft dinner action. We've had him on.
Okay, because he would be great too.
Well, the eating thing was brought up because he had a partnership with Craft Dinner. So that was like, not maybe the most ideal
partnership to have. But this is back to what you're saying. A lot of these athletes will take what they could get.
Yep. Hey, I was just more saying it's maybe not the best pre-fuel. Partnership, they might be paying well. KD, Kraft, I feel like they got some good budgets. I don't know whether I promote them on the Athletes podcast, but hey, we can make it happen. Michelle, this has been a pleasure. I can't thank you enough. I want to give you space in case there's any items that you want to share, things that you've never shared on a podcast that you maybe want to enlighten our audience with, or if you have... If you're not familiar, the way we wrap up every episode on the Athletes podcast, we ask our guests what their biggest piece of advice would be for the next generation of athletes. Now, you did just say to tell everyone to keep moving. So the next generation of athletes. Correct. We're focusing on athletics and those young athletes, those high performers.
Yeah. I would say if you get an opportunity to start working with healthcare professionals.
Doesn't have to be every month, every week, but just because they can enhance what you're doing with your body. And so you can, I would say, prevent loosely a lot of injuries that we see that chronically it's that people haven't taken care or haven't found a professional that they can trust. And so by the time we see them, there's been, things that could have been done previously. So I think for coaches to introduce your athletes to a therapist, and it doesn't have to, maybe you bring them in once every couple months and they just get, but just so that the athletes get to kind of experience a different kind of touch in a safe environment, so that by the time they get to high performance, it's not totally something new. And I think just exploring sort of whatever's available. I think too, for athletes to stay healthy, there's a lot of preventative things that you could do before the injury happens. And a lot of times, just for an example, throwers, you might think, okay, they do a lot of work on their upper body, but really it's their base, like it's their legs, it's their feet. So as an athlete, you really have to be holistic about, regardless of the sport, regardless of if you think you're one side dominant or upper body dominant, your base is big. So I would say to athletes, start building that up from a young age, do lots of sports to get balance, to get dexterity, to get symmetry before you specialize. Because we see some that are specialized and now they're great at that, but if something breaks down, there's no support on the other side to that team.
Thank you so much for saying that. It's music to my ears, because I try and tell everyone that they need to be throwing their kids into ton of sports, gymnastics, swimming, you name it. Like you were a preacher of that, right? This is your byproduct of being able to go and do everything with your body in a ton of different modalities. It's couldn't have said any better myself. Danielle, thank you so much. I really appreciate your book. I can't wait to follow along, have you on again. Maybe we can get you to name drop some of those people if they haven't.
I don't know about everything.
If you haven't signed NDAs with all of them, but we'll keep them incognito for now. And hey, maybe we'll be able to peel it out of the people who we have on the podcast who worked with you specifically.
Look at that.
I know. You've got it. You've got some iron fire. It's caught up. No, I really appreciate it. Where can people find you? Are you on social media anywhere for people to?
I do have an Instagram account, but it's private.
Oh,
and so it's like Facebook. And so, if you have a question, you can message me through it and I'll respond. Nice. But I'm not just out there like that. So
there you go. She's not out there. You're not going to find her. Maybe you'll get lucky if she replies to your Instagram.
No, I will reply.
Danielle, thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you guys for having me.